We begin this newscast with all the latest coming in from Iraq. At least 40 people have been killed in the latest anti-government protests in Iraq. Protests turned violent as security forces fired tear gas at the demonstrators. Some protesters were killed when members of Iran-backed militia opened fire at them when they tried to set fire to the group's office in Nasiriyah. Protests have also gripped the cities of Amara and Basra, while capital Baghdad has emerged as the major center of the demonstrations which have pushed Iraq towards its worst political unrest since the fall of the Islamic State in the year 2017. Protesters in the oil-rich Iraq are demanding jobs and basic amenities like water and electricity. However, the demonstrations continue to go out of hand as the government responds with brute force. Meanwhile, Iraqi Grand Ayatollah has urged all sides to remain calm as Iraq's Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi warned that any collapse of the government would drag the country into further turmoil.
بتنا المتظاهرين وعزتنا في القوات الأمنية إلى الالتزام التام بسلمية التظاهرات وعدم السماح بانجرارها إلى استخدام العنف وأعمال الشغب والتخريب.
But it's not just Iraq which is witnessing these unprecedented protests. There's Chile also witnessing the same, where the anti-government have taken a violent turn. These protests, as many as 1 million demonstrators took to the streets of the capital city of Santiago as the protests moved into its 7th straight day. Masked protesters hurled petrol bombs at the police and set barricades on fire to show their anger against the government's economic policies. The police retaliated by firing rubber bullets and tear gas at the protesters. Water cannons were also deployed in a bid to disperse the protesters. The violence came in at the end of a rather peaceful afternoon of protests. Earlier in the day, protesters marched at one of the public squares in Santiago. The demonstrators were banging pots and blowing whistles to demand economic reforms. Protesters also took to the streets in the city of Valparaiso, where the truck drivers are holding a major strike. Demonstrators waved flags and burnt a pile of debris as the riot police officers looked on. President Sebastian Pinera has said that he has heard the message from the mega protests and would work towards taking Chile on a path which is better for everyone. The protests have continued despite President Sebastian Pinera's pledge to push forward for social reforms. At least 19 people have been killed in the violent protests. Till now, the protests had started over the now scrapped increase in the subway fares and now pose a threat to stability in the South American nation. Let's now bring you up to speed with the latest on the Essex lorry death case. British police have arrested 3 more people in connection with the deaths of 39 people found in the back of the container of the truck. All the 3 people have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter and human trafficking. This while the 25-year-old truck driver remains in police custody over suspicion of murder.
And we have now arrested a 4th person. A 48-year-old man from Northern Ireland was arrested at Stansted Airport earlier today on suspicion of conspiracy to traffic people and on suspicion of manslaughter. It follows the arrest of a 38-year-old man and a 38-year-old woman from Warrington during warrants executed in Cheshire overnight. They are currently in custody, also on suspicion of conspiracy to traffic people and on suspicion of manslaughter. A 25-year-old man arrested on Wednesday on suspicion of murder remains in custody. We are working closely with the National Crime Agency, the Home Office, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, Border Force and Immigration Enforcement.
The police has also appealed to those who suspect that their relatives could have been in the trailer.
I would like to speak directly to anyone who thinks their loved ones may have been in the trailer. I know you may be worried about speaking to the police, and I would like to reassure you that we just want to be able to give the victims' families answers about what has happened.
The police has been trying to establish the identity of the victims. Initial reports said that all the victims were Chinese. There has been no confirmation on this from Beijing as yet. Chinese embassy officials have visited the spot where the bodies were discovered and urged British police to find out the truth and expedite probe behind the deaths. Meanwhile, post-mortem examinations are underway on 11 of the 39 victims in the tragic event. And so after initial reports suggested that all 39 victims in the tragic lorry deaths case were Chinese nationals, it is now being suspected that some of the victims were Vietnamese. According to media reports, a 26-year-old Vietnamese woman named Phan Thi Tra Mai sent a message to her mother saying she's dying. The screenshot of the text conversation between Tra Mai and her mother has also been doing the rounds on social media platforms. The message was sent at the time the lorry was on its way from Belgium to the United Kingdom. It reads, and I quote, "I'm sorry, Mum. My path to abroad does not succeed, Mom. I love you so much. I am dying because I can't breathe. I am from Nguyen Can Loc Ha Tin, Vietnam, and sorry, Mom." Now, this message was sent at 4:28 a.m. Vietnam local time on Tuesday. In Britain, that would have been 10:28 p.m., the time when the trailer was on its way from Belgium into London. Reports claim that Plum had planned to try and travel to England. Her family paid 30,000 euros to people smugglers. Pham's last known location was in Belgium, and there has been no contact with her ever since.